AIs are funny because you can use them as like a voice of God, you can use them as a narrator, you can use them as a guide, and the AIs in Halo do all of those things. I think that looking forward, we have a couple of AIs that are going to become fairly important. There's one called BB, who's introduced in the new Karen Traviss novel Glasslands that we'll probably be hearing more from. There's a very different type of AI. Our AIs tend to be colorful, they tend to have lots of personality, even theatric in a way, but BB literally apports himself as a little box because he thinks that all this nakedness and wizard costumes and all the other stuff that human AIs use is gauche and too much. And so he just wants people to think he's an AI, and that in itself makes him interesting. But we have another twist coming up early next year that I can't talk about right now that will bring AIs right back into the frame. When we were making Halo 2, we needed to add another species. When you do this, you had weapons, you had vehicles, you had species, and the elites are kind of elegant and samurai-like. You know, they have a very rigid moral and battle code. We wanted the antithesis of that could still be a danger, and so we made big hulking brutes, and that's literally what they're called. So, yeah, they're giant space jerks. What is the Covenant now in 2553? I mean, Karen Traviss's novel Glassland definitely explores how fragile a civilization that was, and what happens when, in the absence of faith, what do people scrabble for? And that's going to be an interesting part of the Covenant's future, but we're absolutely not done with the Covenant yet. There's a lot more to tell about their story. Dr. Halsey. She's back in Glasslands as well. I don't want to just keep talking about Glasslands, but she's very central to the core of that story. And somebody online was complaining that we were treating Halsey as if she was evil and mean-spirited and not appropriately recognizing that she'd saved humanity by building the Spartan program. But they're forgetting that she didn't build the Spartans to fight the Covenant. They came along later. She built Spartans to quell human political dissent, and also because she was curious. She was curious about genetics and curious about human potential. She didn't do it for the reasons people think she did. So yeah, she's a deep character. Elites, they're kind of a very noble warrior species. We discover post-2553 they're not very good at things like farming or trade or diplomacy, and it's going to be an Achilles heel for them, but they're definitely going to be the most promising of the Covenant client species in terms of their ability to reform and take back some of the power that they lost after the Covenant-Human War. Forerunners are less of a mystery now that we explored them a little bit with the Greg Bear novel, but we're being very careful not to completely eliminate all sense of mystery and enigma about them, but they're going to be a big part of the universe going on. Gravemind are mines that form when enough flood biomass gets together, and they're intelligent, they're psychic, they're very powerful. They come in different shapes and sizes, from proto-grave mines like the size of the Captain Keyes blob from Halo Combat Evolved, all the way up to a full grave mine and beyond, actually, as Greg Bear will explore in one of the future novels. Halos. There were 7 Halos to begin with. We blew one up, and then we blew up its replacement again. So there are still 6 extant Halos in the galaxy, primed and ready to fire, because we never diffused that fuse. So. Isle of Bees was an ARG alternate reality game that we launched to promote Halo 2. And it was set in, it's canonical, and it's set in a connected part of the Halo universe, but it takes it in a real world spaces in a really interesting way. And to this day, people always ask us, are you going to do another Isle of Bees? And I think that it worked as a marketing technique back in the day because it was unusual, and it was that in itself got press. We were really proud of the way it actually was executed and how fun it was to actually play it, but we're not going to do that as a marketing piece anymore because nobody cares anymore. Everyone's done it over and over again, but we're glad we were there early and have one of the good ones. Everyone calls him the Chief or Master Chief. His name, at least according to his conscription, is John. He doesn't know what his last name is. He's forgotten. He was 6 when he was kidnapped. And it's the most human part of them, and they give them generic names so that they can be molded into something that's beyond their own identity. Miranda Keyes in Glasslands, again, it's explained that Miranda Keyes is the daughter of Jacob Keyes and Dr. Halsey, but a lot of people think that was a big revelation, but it's actually in the Halsey Diary as well that comes with Halo Reach. We made a series of anime episodes a year and a half ago, something like that, maybe 2 years ago, and worked with some of the leading anime studios in Japan. And we still have one of our best foundational pieces there in Halo Origins, which literally tells the story of the Halo from the creation of the Halo rings all the way up to present day. There's actually a bunch of Norse mythology woven into our game, but Mjolnir armor is the Mark II Mjolnir armor through Mark. Oh, I almost gave away a secret there. Anyway, there are many types of Mjolnir armor, and all designed specifically for Spartans to wear, and you wouldn't want to put one on an ODST because it could probably cause some damage. Noble Team is the team featured in Halo Reach with people like Carter, Kat, June, George. George is the only Spartan 2 in that group, and Noble 6, of course, is you, which was a sort of nod to the faceless chief of Halo 1. And they mostly came to a sticky end, although we didn't see all of their fates. One of them at least could have survived. Orbital drop shock troopers are effectively Navy SEALs that you drop from space into combat, and they kick ass, and they're absolutely the elite fighting force on Earth, except for the Spartans. So there's always some one-upmanship there. Profits are on the downturn right now because it was revealed that almost everything they said was a crock of pooey, and the entire Covenant was sundered by that revelation when it became apparent that the prophets were using the appearance of a Forerunner religion to simply control the destiny of the Covenant and control their own power base. The funny thing is, I often get asked is, why is there flood on the Halos? I mean, if they're designed to eradicate them, why have flood? Well, why do you have smallpox viruses in labs? So that's why the conceit is, and the fact is, that they're continually trying to find a cure for the flood in case it comes, because it came from extragalactic space. So there's no guarantee at all that it couldn't come back. So destroying every single sample would have been incredibly foolhardy, because then there would be no ability to research them. Reach was a Spartan training facility for one, and a real sort of tip of the spear for human military action at the end of the Human Covenant War, and came to a nasty, sticky end at the end of Fall of Reach. Spartan program. So Spartan 2s are actually the second type of Spartan. Both were originally designed to fight humans, and in the case of the Spartan 2s, which the chief is, to fight human insurrectionists in colony worlds who were dissatisfied with their tax situation, were dissatisfied for all sorts of political reasons, and mostly Dr. Catherine Halsey's project, and the chief is one of the last surviving of the Spartan 2s. The Arbiter, we talked a lot about the Arbiter. He actually takes a role of a diplomat in Glasslands, and so we get to find out a little bit more about him, but more importantly, his reputation and his role in the future of the elite society. The UNSC is it's funny because we haven't actually very deeply defined what it is. We know what it is internally, but we haven't talked a lot about its structure and its makeup. It's a military government. It's headquartered and based in Earth. And Earth, of course, gets all the juicy voting rights and so on, which is one of the reasons the colonies were dissatisfied in the first place. It's often being called by critics and fans a sort of fascist organization, but it's actually much more like Star Trek's Federation, where it's mostly really well-intentioned, but that you can't please all of the people all of the time. Vehicles in Halo are one of my favorite things about the game because they're a seamless addition to the game. When you pop into a vehicle, it feels like an extension of yourself. They're all fairly fun to drive or fly, and they all have real character. I think we could play sound effects from some of the vehicles in the game in a dark room and people would know what game it was without any other additions. Waypoint is the original name for the Ark in Halo 3, which is the big Halo manufacturing facility, but has since morphed into both our online presence for Halo, for stats and community and culture and so on, but it's also a part of the UNSC communications system throughout the galaxy. If you want to send a letter home to Earth from a distant world, then you'll do it via Waypoint. Xbox Live was out a long time before Halo 2 came out, actually, and I think a lot of people sort of misremember that they came out simultaneously, but there were games like Mech Assault preceded us. But Xbox Live was the real sort of push forward for the Halo online experience, obviously. And solving for peer-to-peer, solving for matchmaking, solving for skill approximation were all things that Halo 2 did really well. The Yanmei are the buggers from Halo 3. They're the annoying flying guys that pop in through windows and you never seem to have the right weapon to fight them. I always end up with a battle rifle instead of an assault rifle whenever the buggers show up. Zanzibar has been remade how many times? Well, including PC 3 times now? Maybe 4? I forget. Zanzibar was actually one of my favorite all-time Halo levels. It appeared in Halo 2 and Halo 3. It's one of the few Halo levels with a big moving set piece in the form of a giant turbine in the middle of the map that kind of designates the halfway point. But I always think of the seawall as the halfway point because I'm usually out there trying to get a ghost.